He had been living alone in a small rental house just outside town, a quiet one-story place at the end of a short dead-end road where nights were usually silent and uneventful. His life was simple, working from home as a freelance graphic designer, rarely stepping outside unless it was for groceries. Visitors almost never showed up unannounced, his friends always texted first, which is why the knock that came one Thursday night felt immediately wrong. It was around 8:45 p.m. when 4 firm knocks echoed through the house. He muted the television and waited, unsure if he had imagined it, but then 2 more knocks followed, sharper this time, more deliberate. He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A man stood on the porch holding a medium-sized cardboard box. He looked ordinary, mid-30s, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap, the kind of face you would forget instantly. Carefully, he opened the door but kept the chain latched. The man spoke quickly, saying he had a delivery that required a signature, reading out a name from a handheld device. It was not his name, not even close. He told the man he had the wrong address, but the man checked the box, then the device, then calmly read out the exact address of the house. That made something feel off. Still, he insisted no one by that name lived there. The man stared at him for a moment too long, then simply said he must have been given incorrect information and turned to leave. He watched him walk down the driveway, expecting to see a delivery van or at least a parked car, but there was nothing. The man passed the mailbox and disappeared around the corner into the darkness. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. He locked the door and tried to brush it off, convincing himself it was just some small delivery mistake, maybe an unmarked driver or a contractor. The next night, almost at the exact same time, the knocking returned. This time, he did not open the door. He went straight to the peephole. It was the same man, same jacket, same box, standing there as if nothing had happened the night before. Speaking through the door, he told him again that no one by that name lived there and that he had already come by. There was a long pause before the man responded, his voice calm, saying he just needed a signature and that the system required the package to be delivered tonight. The response felt rehearsed, unnatural. He refused again. The man did not leave immediately. Instead, he stepped back slowly and stood at the edge of the porch, scanning the house. His head turned toward the windows, then to the side of the house, then back to the door, as if memorizing everything. After several long seconds, he finally walked away. Again, there was no vehicle. That was the moment the situation stopped feeling like a mistake. On the third night, there was no knock. Relief settled in, fragile but welcome. Maybe the man had finally figured out the error. Maybe it was over. But that sense of comfort did not last. On the fourth night, while washing dishes around 9 p.m., he heard knocking again, but not at the front door. It came from the side of the house near the dining room window. Slow, deliberate, 4 taps. He froze. When he looked, no one was there. Then immediately, 4 more knocks sounded at the front door. He moved to the peephole and saw the man again, but this time there was no box. His hands were empty. The man knocked again, then stepped back and looked directly toward the peephole, as if he knew he was being watched. He stayed silent, stepping away from the door, refusing to make a sound. After half a minute, the man turned and walked away. This time, he did not stop watching. Moving quietly through the dark house, he checked through the windows and saw the man standing across the street near the tree line, completely still, facing the house. Watching. After a minute, the figure disappeared into the darkness. The next day, he contacted the local police non-emergency line and explained everything. The officer told him it sounded like someone checking if the house was occupied, a method burglars sometimes used. The advice was simple: install cameras if possible and call 911 if the man returned. That night, he turned off all the front lights and stayed in his bedroom, waiting. At exactly 8:45 p.m., the knocking came again. 4 knocks, then 4 more. He stayed silent. Then came a different sound, a soft thud from the back of the house. Then another. He realized someone was at the back door. Heart pounding, he stepped into the hallway and listened. The door handle slowly turned, stopped, then turned again. Someone was trying to get in. He called 911, whispering into the phone as the sounds continued. While he spoke, the knocking started again at the front door. There was more than one person. Then came a faint metallic scraping at the back door, like something being forced into the frame. And then suddenly, silence. He stayed on the phone until the police arrived. Outside, they found fresh pry marks on the back door. The officer told him plainly, if he had not been home, the door would have been forced open. The following night, he stayed at his brother's apartment, not telling anyone he had left. Around 9 p.m., his phone rang. A neighbor reported someone standing on his porch, knocking repeatedly for minutes. No vehicle in sight. Police arrived and questioned the man. The excuse was the same, a delivery, a missing package, but this time the story fell apart. 2 days later, the truth came out. The man was arrested while attempting to break into another house nearby. Inside his car, police found multiple empty boxes and a fake handheld scanner. During questioning, he admitted everything. The deliveries were never real. He used them to test houses, knocking repeatedly over several nights. If someone answered, he marked the house as occupied. If not, he returned later to break in. Hearing that truth sent a chill through him that never left. He realized how close he had come to being just another empty house on someone's list. He moved out 3 months later, but the habit stayed with him. Now, whenever there is an unexpected knock at night, he does not move, does not speak, and does not go near the door. Because sometimes, the scariest thing is not what is outside. It is what is waiting for you to believe you are not home. It was the weeks leading up to Christmas in a quiet neighborhood near Glasgow, Scotland, where a close-knit family lived together in a warm, lively home. The house was always full, parents, siblings, cats, dogs, and the comfort of shared evenings spent in the living room watching movies, playing games, and talking late into the night. At the time, the boy at the center of this story was 16, close to turning 17, balancing school with thoughts of what came next. Christmas had always been his favorite time of year, a season that made everything feel safe, predictable, and full of joy. One evening, as the family sat together watching A Christmas Carol, that sense of safety cracked in a small but unsettling way. A knock sounded at the door. It was normal enough that no one reacted strongly. His mother got up to answer it, expecting a neighbor or someone passing by. But when she opened the door, there was no one there. The street was empty, completely still. She checked along the side of the house, thinking maybe someone had stepped away, but there was nothing. She came back inside, slightly confused, but not alarmed, and the movie continued. A few days later, while he sat at the living room table working on exam preparation, another knock came. This time, he answered it himself, expecting to catch whoever had been playing a prank. But again, the doorstep was empty. No footsteps, no laughter, no movement in the distance. Just silence. The family assumed it was neighborhood kids playing games, something common in the area where children knock and run away for fun. It was annoying, but harmless, or at least that was the explanation they chose to accept. As the days passed, the knocking continued. It came at random times, sometimes during the day, sometimes late at night. Each time, the same result, no one there, no sound of anyone leaving, no trace of a prank. The pattern began to feel wrong. Usually, there would be some sign, laughter, footsteps, anything. But this felt controlled, almost intentional in its silence. One night, his father experienced it alone. Around 11:30 p.m., long after any children would have been inside, a quiet knock sounded at the door. It was softer than the others, almost cautious. His father checked through the peephole first, but saw nothing. When he opened the door, the street outside was completely empty. No movement, no sound, nothing at all. When he came upstairs and told the rest of the family, the unease grew stronger. This was no longer easy to explain. Then came Christmas Day. The house was filled with warmth and happiness from morning to night. Presents were opened, food was shared, laughter echoed through every room. It was everything Christmas was meant to be. Later that night, after the celebrations had ended and everyone had gone to bed, the boy lay awake in his room. He had woken sometime after midnight, his phone casting a dim glow in the darkness. The house was silent, the kind of silence that feels heavier than usual. Then he heard it. A faint knock. He froze instantly. His heart began to race as he tried to figure out where the sound had come from. His door, his window, or somewhere deeper inside the house. For a long moment, he stayed completely still, hoping it was just his imagination. But the fear lingered. No one should have been outside at that hour, not on Christmas night. Eventually, he forced himself to move. Slowly, he opened his bedroom door. As it creaked open, another sound followed, footsteps. Slow, uneven footsteps moving up the stairs. At first, he assumed it was his father coming to bed, and for a second, that thought calmed him. He stepped forward, ready to speak. Then he saw the figure. It was not his father. A man he had never seen before was climbing the stairs, swaying slightly, clearly intoxicated. The realization hit instantly, this was the person behind the knocking. He was already inside the house. The boy backed away silently and slipped back into his room, closing the door as quietly as he could. His entire body felt frozen. Outside, he could hear the man moving through the house, opening doors one by one, searching each room. Every step felt closer, every second heavier. It felt like it was only a matter of time before the man reached his door. Gathering what little courage he had left, he opened his door slightly and saw the man stepping out of his younger sister's room. That was enough to break the paralysis. He ran to his parents' room and woke them, his voice shaking as he told them there was a man inside the house. His mother reacted immediately. His father, still groggy, quickly understood the situation. Together, they went downstairs and found the man lying on the couch, surrounded by opened bottles of beer. He had made himself comfortable, as if he belonged there. His mother shouted at him to leave. The man stirred, confused and angry, insisting the house was his. His words were slurred, his movements slow, but his presence was threatening. They tried to get him up, but he barely reacted. It was like trying to move a body that refused to cooperate. Then his father stepped in fully. He grabbed the man and dragged him toward the door, forcing him outside despite his resistance. The door slammed shut, and for a brief moment, it felt like it was over. But it wasn't. Seconds later, the sound of glass shattering filled the room. The man had punched through the window, sending shards flying inside. He pushed his face through the broken glass, shouting angrily, claiming the house was his, threatening them, saying he would return. The scene felt unreal, like something out of a nightmare. The police were called, and eventually, the man disappeared into the night. When officers arrived, they took statements and began searching the area. Snow had fallen that night, leaving behind a clear trail of blood where the man had fled. The trail led to a nearby playground, where he was found injured, glass embedded in his hands. He was arrested shortly after. In the days that followed, the house was repaired and life slowly returned to normal. The man claimed he had once lived in the house years before and had entered by mistake while drunk. He denied ever knocking on the door in the weeks before the incident. But that explanation never felt right. Because the knocking had started long before that night. And even now, sometimes in the quiet of the night, he feels it again. That faint, deliberate knock echoing through the silence. A reminder that whatever had been outside their door before Christmas might never have truly gone away. A young boy once lived with his family in a quiet neighborhood, a place that usually felt safe, predictable, and calm. His father was away at the time, deployed far from home, leaving behind his mother and 3 children to manage on their own. The boy was especially close to his father, and his absence left a heavy feeling in the house, one that made nights seem longer and shadows feel deeper. One rainy night, the boy sat outside on the porch with his mother. The air was cold, and the sound of rain filled the silence as they watched droplets hit the ground. It was peaceful at first, almost comforting, until something unusual caught their attention. A man was walking slowly down the middle of the road. He wore an oversized yellow raincoat that stood out in the darkness, almost glowing under the dim streetlights. There was something wrong about the way he moved, something that made both of them uneasy. They stayed quiet, watching as the man drifted closer toward their driveway. The boy's mother stood up immediately, her instincts kicking in. She grabbed his hand and put out her cigarette, her eyes locked on the stranger. The man stopped near their garbage cans, standing still as if he had reached his destination. Then, suddenly, he began shouting. His voice was loud, aggressive, and filled with something that made the boy's chest tighten with fear. Without hesitation, his mother rushed him inside and locked the door behind them, turning off all the lights. Inside, panic spread quickly. The boy began crying as his mother gathered all the children into the parents' bedroom. They huddled together on the large bed, trying to stay quiet, trying to feel safe. After a while, the noise outside stopped. The house fell into silence again, and eventually, exhaustion pulled them into sleep. But the night was far from over. At some point later, the boy woke up shaking from a nightmare. In his dream, the same man in the yellow raincoat stood outside his window, staring in. The image felt so real that it clung to him even after he opened his eyes. Terrified, he woke his sister, his voice trembling as he told her he was scared. She gently led him to the bathroom attached to the bedroom, trying to calm him down without waking the others. Then it happened. A loud, violent banging echoed through the house. The sound came from the front door, heavy and relentless, like someone was trying to break it down. The sister immediately rushed out of the bathroom and shook their mother awake. Their brother woke up too, startled by the noise. The boy remained frozen in the bathroom, his heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. His mother motioned for all the children to stay inside as she stepped out into the hallway. The banging continued, louder now, mixed with shouting. The man was screaming, demanding to be let in. His voice sounded unhinged, desperate, and angry. The children huddled together, crying softly, trying not to make a sound. Their mother searched frantically for the only phone in the house, but when she returned, her empty hands confirmed their worst fear. They had no way to call for help. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as the man continued pounding on the door. Each hit echoed through the walls, shaking the fragile sense of safety they had left. The children clung to each other, whispering prayers, hoping someone, anyone, would hear the noise and call the police. But no one came. Eventually, just as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The man was gone. The silence that followed felt almost worse, heavy and suffocating. Somehow, despite everything, the family managed to fall asleep again, their bodies exhausted from fear. Weeks passed, and life slowly began to feel normal again. Until one morning, everything changed. The family woke up to find the front door wide open. A window had been tampered with, its screen cut open with precision. Someone had been inside the house during the night. Panic set in immediately as they realized things were missing. Small items at first, then more valuable ones. Money, belongings, personal items, all gone. But the most disturbing discovery was where some of those items had been taken from. A large container filled with cash and coins had been sitting right next to the boy's bed. It was gone. Whoever had entered the house had been close enough to stand beside him while he slept, close enough to reach out and take it without waking anyone. The realization sent chills through the entire family. The police were called, but the intruder was never found. No answers came. No closure followed. Years later, the memory still lingered like a shadow. There was never any proof that the man in the yellow raincoat was the same person who broke into the house. Maybe it was him. Maybe it wasn't. But sometimes, the boy, now older, still thinks about that night. About the rain. About the knocking. And about how close danger truly was.